Hey everyone, my name is Poisonblade and I hope all of you are doing well today. So for today's video, we are building a roundhouse in Valheim, which is not the usual game that I play because I'm think most known for Plan Zoo, but lately I've been kind of addicted to Valheim, and then I wanted to show you guys what I could build in Valheim, and then of course I first wanted a starter roundhouse that ended up not being so much of a starter roundhouse. There are a lot of shortcuts that you can take in this build that would make it a starter roundhouse, because it's mostly just like the amount of materials that I use that make it a little bit like dangling on the edge of a starter house. Because by the end of this build I used 11 stacks of wood. So that's what makes it mostly like dangling on the edge. But how I approached building this roundhouse was basically build a wheel. Sort of a wheel. It's like not completely a wheel or like a round wheel, but you have like the central axe and then you go out from there. And the length that you go from like the central axe, well, that makes it how large your roundhouse is going to be. Also, of course, determines how much materials you're going to use. But basically, that's what I did. I made a central axe, made spines coming out from there, and then I tried to make it a little bit more fancy by like sort of weaving the wood. But again, this is of course where the materials start to really go up. And also where it becomes a little bit more, not really difficult, but just, at least for me, tedious when it comes to building, because it's just like, I snap to this thing, don't snap to that, snap to this, and especially when it comes later to the roof, well, let's just say that turning off the snapping thing when it comes to the roof, because, well, Valheim, it's mostly, like, not really blocky buildings, but just, well, actually kind of blocky buildings. Like, it's mostly wants you to build square, rectangular buildings. Although, the thing is with this roundhouse, if you make this building taller, you can actually just build a tower. It's not going to be perfectly round, because of course there's pointy bits to it, but you can make this building into a lot of other things. Although, I'm still going to call this a starter roundhouse, because you can't, well, besides building a tower, you can't really upgrade this house, at least in what I think of it. Because you can upgrade a longhouse, like a rectangular longhouse, you can quite easily upgrade that. A roundhouse is a little bit more difficult to upgrade, because, I mean, you can make it bigger, but then you have to redo most of the house. Like, you can only, like, maybe use the platform that you build it on, but if you make it larger, you need to make that platform larger. But all of the walls, the roof, you need to redo that completely. So yeah, it is definitely a starter house, but not a house that you can, like, well, unless you make it really big from the start. But if you, let's say, use the size that I'm using right now and try to make it into a mid-game or late-game house where you usually have a lot more stuff that you need to somewhat organize, although I'm very bad at that. I have chests all over this freaking village, and I have no idea what is in which chest, because I mean, this is kind of like in real life as well. I have tons of stuff and I have no idea where it all is, because I am really disorganized. And now came the painful bit, which is the roof. Again, Valheim, the game is designed to make more like rectangular, blocky, squarish buildings, so making a round building is more difficult. So here is where letting go of the snapping part, or the snapping to where the pieces snap to each other, basically, letting go of that when you're building a round building is definitely a must. Or, well, you can build with the snapping tool, it's just a little bit more difficult because you want the piece to be in a certain place, but it doesn't want to quite go there, because it really finds an easy snapping point on basically a place where you don't want that piece. So after a while, with the roof, I just let go of the snapping. Well, not really actually. Like, most of the roof I still did with the snapping. It's just like I basically want the roof to go a little bit over the wall, so that the roof doesn't stop where the wall goes. I wanted to kind of have that overhang, and that's basically the last part, and also the most painful part, because I did the entire overhang without the snapping thing, because it was hell to try and make that with the snapping. But yeah, that was fun, but also not really, because I went the entire circle around this entire building, then realized that I've been basically on a downward slope. So at one end of the overhang, it was a lot higher than on the other end, so I had to redo the entire thing, figure out where I started to slope downwards, and then try to make it work all over again. Yeah, making round buildings in Valheim definitely is like, it's fun to do because you create a very different building, and I don't think you will find any round buildings like naturally generated in the world, but it's also really a chore. And then here's another thing that's just, this is basically just me, but this might also be applicable to you guys, but whenever I try to build a roof, whenever I'm standing on the roof, for some reason my brain just goes into keep jumping modes. So that was fun. Also, really quickly realized that you need to basically build the skeleton of the structure first if you want everything to kind of look like it's lined out properly. So I first wanted this to be like, oh yeah, I can just sort of wing this. No, with Valheim you actually have to have sort of a plan, which is not really how I built in Planet Zoo. So it's like in Planet Zoo I really just wing it, and in Valheim I don't want to just wing it because that will cause pain. I wanted to leave those triangular bits. I'm on fire because, of course, I'm a dumbass, so I constantly walk into that fire. So I think at a certain point I delete the fire. Yes, I did. And yeah, I wanted to keep those triangular bits that I made into the roof open so that you have windows. Then I kind of figured out, oh, but I want that overhang, and the overhang is going to slightly go into the already existing roof. Yeah, that's not going to work, so this building has no windows. And then it's figuring out how to make the chimney work, which I don't think I put it on the speed build, but yeah, eventually I figured out that one of those cross sections raised 2 meters, I think it's the 2 meter piece, raised above the hole of the roof, actually makes this building watertight, or makes it so that the rain doesn't come in. It shouldn't work because there's an obvious hole in the roof and there's no like roof on top of it, but it somehow still works. So does it look like it should work? No. But after all of my attempts, which you are going to see, I just kind of stuck with that. Kind of gave me a weird spire or church-like vibe to the building, but hey, the fire doesn't go out, so you can use the fire. Otherwise this building would have been kind of useless, which is actually what the next building is going to be. Again, I'm building a village because why not? I'm the only one living here. Well, I'm not the only one on the server, but this village or this sort of project is yeah, most of the buildings are completely useless because I built this roundhouse with the intention of it being like a starter house, but you will see it in the back that my longhouse is already there. But yeah, I used this building as a food storage place, which is why in the cinematic shots of the video later, you will just see it surrounded by crops, or I think it's the carrot seed plants. So I use this as food storage, but I mean, it is completely usable by anyone. There's a bed in there and such. So with the fire and everything, it works. You will... Well, this might just again be because I'm a dumbass, but I constantly walk into the fire. Don't ask me why, I just lose all sense of spatial awareness and just walk into the fire. I've never burned to that though, so that's a plus. But yeah, what I'm doing right now doesn't work. The fire or the smoke, because that's... For anyone who's new to Valheim, there's actual like smoke in the game that you need to make a chimney for, otherwise you are going to basically choke to death because of all the smoke that's going to accumulate in your building what I'm doing right now doesn't work. Eventually I somehow figured out that using the cross section with the wood raised 2 meters, I think, or is it 1 meter? Like, I usually go for like a 2 meter gap between where the chimney ends and the roof piece to make sure that the rain doesn't come in. I usually go for 2 meters because that's more just certain, like, oh, the smoke is going to get out of there. 1 meter, I have on occasionally used, but it's like, I'm never quite sure until it starts raining if it works. Well, not until it starts raining, until the building starts filling up with smoke. Which, yeah, by that point, then I'm usually already kind of over it. With trying to build that chimney, because, again, I am a dumbass, so I will fall into that chimney while building the building. A lot. Building my long house, the amount of times that I fell into the chimney, I think I once even died because of fall damage. Also, that's the reason why I put out the actual fire in the chimney, because, I mean, I don't have spatial awareness, so I will fall into a chimney, set myself on fire, and die. And that's annoying in this game. Well, actually, because my spawn is literally right outside, it shouldn't do that much, but anyway, so at this point I have already completely chipped into my wood reserves that I didn't want to use. So I wanted to first make this building out of like just 7 stacks of wood. That to me feels like, oh yeah, you could easily gather 7 stacks of wood. Like, it's how many trees? I think you get 20 wood from a single tree, so 7 times 50. I'm not good at math. Am I good at one thing? Well, I'm sort of good at building, so you guys do the math on that. But yeah, in the end I used 11 stacks, dipped into all of the stacks of wood that I had lying around the place. So I had stacks of wood for my smelter and such. I had stacks of wood, well, 1 stack of wood for all my fires. I dipped into all of that because this building took way more wood than I thought. And that's basically a trend with all of the buildings going forward. I use a lot more wood than I originally thought I would. But I think this, well, the next building is going to actually be more of a starter building. Also not useful, but that's because of a later addition I use or place with the building. But that's for the next video. And now you know that I'm so much sure of not falling into the chimney because I put the fire in. But yeah, this chimney design doesn't work. The smoke is accumulating, you don't see it going outside of the building. Or I'm just impatient and this design might have worked, but I thought I saw smoke accumulating. Like, I didn't see smoke coming out of the chimney, so I thought like, alright, this doesn't work. And then of course, like, even if the smoke comes out of the chimney, I then had to wait until it rains to find out if rain is coming into the building. That was not the most fun, because every time, like, when you want to go out exploring and when you just want a sunny day, it rains. When you want rain, it's sunny. Planet Zoo and Valheim, of course, are very different games, but because of my building experience in Planet Zoo, I somewhat had a little bit of an easier time in Valheim, because Planet Zoo also doesn't really want you to build round buildings. There's definitely, I think, a lot more leeway in Planet Zoo with building round buildings, but that might also be because the one thing with Valheim is I want to zoom out further than I can, or I want to zoom in further than I can. Which, of course, in Planet Zoo, the camera is completely free, so you can go into the minutest detail with the camera or zoom the furthest in. Here is the traumatic part where you might already see it, but the roof is slightly, or the overhang is slightly sloping down with each part. But yeah, back to the camera from Planet Zoo and Valheim. Yeah, I'm going to have to get like comfortable with that. I have since gone more comfortable because I've after this built 3 more buildings. We had 3 more actually. One is completely useless. The other 2 are, one is useful. The other 2 are basically decorations. Because yeah, I'm just going to keep that for the next video. But I never thought I would get so addicted to a survival game like this, because Minecraft never hooked me. Like, but that's mostly because I don't have any patience, so whenever a creeper blew up my house, I was just done with it. Like so much progress, and then a creeper really quickly blows up your house, and then it's just nope. So in the end, here you can see me dipping into the last stack of wood that I had. I hope I was able to finish it with this, but I might have also just deleted some other things. But yeah, I haven't figured out here yet that the roof is sloping down. And then I figured it out, and then I just hit myself in the face. No, not really, it was just annoying. I had to delete it all and try and figure out where the sloping downwards just started. But yeah, for some reason Valheim has really just stuck with me. Like, I've gone completely addicted to it. It does help that my Plant Suit project for Valhalla is also Norse inspired, so I had a general idea of like, oh, how do these buildings usually look? And how do you usually build these buildings? Because again, Plant Suit and Valheim, they both kind of want you to build rectangular, blocky buildings. Yeah, in the end it all sort of worked out. Also, I literally built this village on a place where there were a lot of strawberry plants, just because I'm lazy and I didn't want to venture out to gather all the strawberries. And then they stopped spawning strawberries. And yes, they are in-game called raspberries, but I call them strawberries because they look like it, and I'm more familiar with strawberries than raspberries, so I'm just going to keep calling them strawberries. I really just want to, like, have them be plantable. But I think from the next, well, seeing the roadmap of the developers, the next thing on the plan is, I think, like, what's it called? For some reason the word that sticks into my head is infrastructure, but that's not the word. It's interiors. Like more furniture and that sort of thing that we will get, which again I'm really happy with because I really dislike the chair that we have in game. Like, I know it's probably a realistic chair for like for this game, but I really dislike the look of it, so I'm like really happy that like, oh, we're getting new interiors, or at least we are getting new furniture. Yes. Again, still trying to work out that chimney, but basically what I have right now, if you put that cross section on a 2-meter plank or 2-meter beam, so basically raise it up by 2 meters, then it works. For some reason, I have no idea why. Because it shouldn't work, but it does. And also I'm going to like furnish or put furniture in the entire place, which is going to make it a not so starter home, because you need copper to have like fine wood, unless you lure a troll into the forest and have him break it for you, which I have a tendency to lure trolls or just attract trolls for some reason, because the amount of trolls that I've run into in this game. I have way too much troll hide to ever be of any use, or like, I can't use it. But anyway, that's it for today's video. I am going to do more of these videos. Next up is a pig farm that every building in the next video is completely useless. But it looks pretty, so that's why I am building it. So yeah. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's video. It is kind of a new thing for me, so we'll see how you guys like it, and I will keep making more of these because I have built way too much already. So with that being said, I hope all of you are having a wonderful day. If you liked the video, there's a like and subscribe button. There's a notification button that never works, but maybe it will work, but probably doesn't, or will never work anymore. So with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Bye bye.